Hello, welcome back to this special lecture series on social issues by To The Point. This is the last video of the series on the topic of gender equality. So, we have discussed in the previous videos about the concept of gender and in the context of the Indian society, how it has manifested in a patriarchal system where men dominated for centuries together. In order to make women partners in development, we have discussed the problems associated with the conception of gender in our society, the problems that women face from womb to tomb, that is, from the time that they were born to the time that they die, and we have discussed the manifestations of the violence in various forms against women. So, in this video, we'll be talking about the interventions that the government has taken to empower them. So, these schemes are very important for any competitive exam, and therefore we will look at them in a very broad manner. So the central level ministry that deals with the problems of women is the Ministry of Women and Child Development. The reason why these two are clubbed together is because the child development as a concept is very interlinked or interwoven to the problems that women face, whether it is in the time of pregnancy or the prenatal or the postnatal care. So, prenatal or the postnatal care. These aspects are associated with child as well as the safety and health of women as well. Keeping all these problems in view, the requirement for coordinated efforts was recognized and the Ministry of Women and Child Development was constituted. Recently, the ministry clubbed all the available schemes under the ministry under three different heads. Mission Poshan is about the nutrition of both child and women. Mission Vatsalya is about the nourishment and extra care that children deserve, and the schemes that come under this are clubbed under Mission Vatsalya. And then you have Mission Shakti. So this is exclusively to empower women and deal with the problems that we have discussed over the past few videos. So under this Mission Shakti, or a set of schemes aimed at empowering women, the first one is the Beti bachao, Beti padao scheme. This is one of the flagship schemes of the ministry. The latest census figures are those of 2011. So, in 2011, the census data revealed that the child sex ratio, which is calculated as number of girls for every 1,000 boys, and the age group is 0 to 6 years. So, in this age group, there was a significant reduction in the child sex ratio. In 2011, this ratio was 918, and if you take a look at the 1961 data, it is 976. So the decline in CSR has been unabated since 1961. Continuously it was falling down. This is an alarming indicator for women disempowerment. It reflects both pre-birth discrimination manifested through gender-based sex selection and post-birth discrimination against girls as well. So before birth and after birth, they are discriminated. The decline is widespread across the country and has expanded to rural as well as tribal areas. In order to contain this, the government came up with Beti Bachao, Beti Padao scheme to address the issue of decline in CSR. So 100 gender critical districts, or the priority districts where this problem is more relevant, they were identified, and certain coordinated and convergent efforts were designed to ensure survival, protection and education of the girl child. So this is a tri-ministerial initiative, that is, three ministries are involved. Which ministries? Women and Child Development Ministry, Health and Family Welfare Ministry, and Human Resources Development. So the objectives of the scheme are prevent gender biased sex selective elimination, that is female infanticide, ensure survival and protection of the girl child. Sometimes it so happens that the girl child will be discarded by the family owing to the perceived burden on their family. So, to ensure that such steps do not happen in our society, certain schemes or certain initiatives were taken up under this Beti bachao, Beti padao in this select districts. The third aspect is ensure education of the girl child. This is one of the most important factor for empowering the girl child in the future. Otherwise, the circle or the vicious cycle keeps on continuing even in the next generation. So, in order to change the mind, no design of the program will work if people don't cooperate. So, cooperation is a prerequisite for any program to see success. For that, you need to have awareness and advocacy campaigns. And also multi-sectoral action, meaning it just does not suffice that if only one wing of the government is functioning or one department of the ministry is functioning. It requires a coordination from different ministries at the same time. For example, if the Ministry of Women and Child Development releases its fund for, say, safeguarding women or safeguarding the girl child in these select districts, but if there is no action plan in place by the Human Resource Development Ministry or the Education Ministry as it is now called, then there will be no avenue for ensuring that these kids get education. So this is just an example of what multi-sectoral action means. Enabling girls' education is also one such multi-sectoral action which requires coordination between the Ministry of Women and Child Development as well as HRD or Education Ministry. And at the heart of all these actions is an old legislation, preconception and prenatal diagnostic tests. There is an act which prohibits the determination of the sex of the fetus. The reason for this is pregnant women or the couple themselves together go to the clinics, determine the sex of the kid or the fetus, and when they know that it is actually a girl child, they either abort the child or they try to discard after she is born. So this is not a new phenomenon, and to contain this problem, this act was brought out which prohibited determining the sex of the fetus. However, there are still clinics in rural parts of the country which are secretly determining the sex of the fetus. So it requires an effective enforcement of the existing legislation. In our previous videos, we have discussed about the impact of domestic violence or sometimes even dowry. There were a lot of dowry deaths as well. So in order to rehabilitate women removed from those homes where domestic violence is a norm, we have a scheme called the One-Stop Center. This scheme facilitates access to an integrated range of services, because once that woman comes out of that household, she would be requiring not just one help but interventions from various avenues. So she would be needing legal help, she would be needing the support of police for security reasons, and because of the trauma and stress that she is under, she might need medical help as well. And sometimes even mental health is also disturbed very badly. They would need psychological support and counseling as well. And more than that, they would be needing temporary shelter. So all this will be arranged in the one-stop center, as the name itself is self-explanatory. So there is a scheme called the Nirbhaya Fund, or actually a fund was established which is a non-lapsable fund which allocates money for various projects which try to empower women, and under that fund itself we have one-stop centers, and this same public fund, this public fund which is non-lapsable, will fund the one-stop centers as well. Women Helpline. In these times of internet penetration, even online help can be of high significance to the women who are subjugated to violence. So the government came up with a number 181, which is a sort of an emergency distress call since 1st April 2015 for women who are in this state of emergency. So that is also another initiative. This initiative is meant to increase the safety perception of women. The next scheme is the Mahila Shakti Kendra. So basically, rural women do not have the kind of access that normal women in cities have. So whether it is in the terms of education, whether it is in the level of technical support, they don't have the kind of exposure. Recognizing this, the government came up with this Mahila Shakti Kendra. So community participation is the principle that is involved in this particular scheme. So student volunteers would come down to villages and help the women. How would they do that? They give them technical support to the respective governments on issues related to women. So whether it can be about entrepreneurship, it can be about women education or marketing their produce. So in this Mahila Shakti Kendra, specific projects would be taken up and the volunteers would come down and support the government in carrying out the schemes. Basically, it's like the manpower required for ensuring that the schemes fall in place and are executed properly by using the principle of civil society and community participation. Swadhar Gray. So this scheme is about any women who is actually displaced or does not have a proper house or any dignified living conditions. So for such women, there is a need for institutional support or a proper shelter, housing, social security, etc. So these places were designed to rehabilitate such women so that they can lead their life again with dignity. Jawala. So this particular scheme is about another manifestation of the domestic violence, or it can also be broadly categorized as violence against women. So we have seen that violence against women will take a lot of forms. One of the form is human trafficking. The objective of this human trafficking can either be commercial sexual exploitation or to get young women into prostitution, or probably sometimes into child labor as well. So the scheme aims to prevent such incidents and facilitate rescue victims and placing them in safe custody. Rehabilitation services are also provided. One important point you have to remember for MCQs is that this involves not just the people within our boundary but also cross-border victims. They are rehabilitated and sent back to their families as well. Working Women's Hostel. It's very straightforward, as the name itself is explanatory. It aims to provide safe and affordable accommodation to working women in cities. In the concept of migration, we have discussed that women, especially in urban spaces, are facing a lot of issues, whether it is with respect to safety or the other dimension of affordability. So considering both these aspects, the government came up with this Working Women Hostel scheme. So they also have a daycare facility for working women to support the children of these working women. What exactly is the government doing? There can be certain NGOs or state governments which are taking up the initiative to build this working women hostel and run them. The ministry will be giving financial support to actually get this done. So it's a sort of a collaborative governance. Collaborative governance uses civil society bodies as a tool for governance. This is one such example. And the last scheme that we're talking about, that is under the ambit of the Women and Child Development Ministry, is the Mahila Police Volunteers. This is actually carried out in collaboration with the Ministry of Home Affairs. So what does this scheme envisage? Basically, this scheme acts as a link between the police and community and facilitates women in distress. So these are the various schemes that the government through the Ministry of Women and Child Development has come up with to ensure that women empowerment is seen as a reality. However, you have to remember that these initiatives are not exhaustive. We are just talking about uh, schemes which are directly relevant to women. Indirectly, there can be a lot of other schemes by different ministries which address different aspects of the life of women and show some positive impact as well. We will be discussing those points in the relevant chapters. So that's it for now. Thank you.